Was built in Montana.
Did they just come down
For the weekend. Okay, let me get your attention one more time. We'll try this again. Welcome to the July edition of the Metroport Veteran Association Breakfast. Please stand and let's all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. If you would join me in a moment of silence, let's remember those who are not able to be with us today. Thank you. You can go ahead and have a seat. Before we get started, Mark, why is there no pause between one nation under God and the pledge?
It's like a.
Is your name Mark? No.
I'll do laugh, but I know there is. It's one thing. There's no comma in there.
So that was one thing that the Boy Scout leaders that are in my Rotary Club, I'm switching, but in the Metroport Rotary Club, their insistence on there is no comma. It's one nation under God. It's not one nation under God. That's one nation under God. So
We call that the Presbyterian clause.
it's the Presbyterian clause. Yeah. Yeah. So you'll hear it both ways. So it's interesting how people do it. Okay, announcements. What do we got coming up? Got that expo coming up the 8th and 9th. The evening of the 8th, we're going to have a barbecue two-step dance fundraiser that Ron Dean from Charles Schwab is hosting for us. And I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be yet. He's supposed to have announced it this last week, so I'm working on that. And then on Saturday morning, we have 5 different speakers that are going to talk about the GallantFew 5 points of functional fitness. And we'll be announcing who those speakers are pretty soon. I've got most of them locked in already. And then we have a lunch that's sponsored by State Farm. They may or may not give us a speaker for that. I don't know yet. And then in the afternoon, we're going to turn it over to Brigade V. And Brigade V, some of you have participated in the calls. Brigade V is a business resource group association for diversity and inclusion of veterans. That's the Brigade V. So it's kind of a long name. But if you look at American Airlines, for instance, they have a military affinity group or a veteran-focused employee resource group. And they do things, patriotic things within American Airlines. They support maybe troops that are deployed, or they go help paint a veteran's house, or they have different projects that they do internally. Other companies want to start one of those but don't know how. Some have really good ones. Some have some that they just haven't been able to get off the ground. And so the purpose of this group is to share best practices and help all of the other veteran-focused employee resource groups across all corporations learn from each other and create better employment opportunities for veterans. So trying to change the employment opportunities for veterans from the inside out. Veterans Day coming up on November the 11th. I would like to get some volunteers to help me plan the event. Usually Zach and I end up doing it, which means Zach does most of it. But we will, weather permitting, we'll do it at the flagpole that's over by the swimming pool. And if the weather is bad, we'll move it into the fire station like we've had to do in a couple of years past. So it's kind of a hip shot on what exactly is going to happen. Before we go further, let's run around the room. We've got a couple of new faces, and let's introduce ourselves. And Councilman Sheridan, he hates when I call him that, but.
And Sheridan, Army, Vietnam,
We'll just go around this
Lee Morris, veteran, U.S. Navy, USS Oklahoma City.
Matt Sher, veteran, Army, Iraq, war.
We'll hear from him in a minute. So we'll go to the back.
That's close. U.S. Marine Corps.
Put on his big boy voice when he said that. Didn't he? Hey, sir.
Of course. Anyways, brings
And your sidekick?
this thing is mine. Her name is Layla. She is tuning everybody out right now. So feel free to ignore her. She'll do the exact same to you.
Casey King, Army, Iraq, 08, 09. Glad to be here.
And Jake's our speaker, so we'll let him talk in a minute. Sarah, we're just telling everybody who we are.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gale. I'm the supporters of the Red Race. And so, sorry, my 8-year-old just woke it up. So I was just a week ago.
Mark?
Mark Bartels, Army, 7073, and most of my time in Germany.
Royce Weber, Army 7799. Tom Lewis, Navy, engaged 94 submarines.
Which boggles my mind. So
Kathy Jones, Army, 87.
if anybody wondered if Tommy was crazy, now you know for sure he is. He's a submariner.
That told me a whole lot.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. I started off by saying usually July is pretty light. Hey, come in this door over here if you would. I know it's confusing because Zach put the sign over there. We blame everything that goes wrong on Zach. It's just, that's the SOP. It's nobody else's fault. Even if Zach is nowhere near whatever happens, it's still Zach's fault. So, hey, come on in. Not to put you on the spot, but we just went around and introduced everybody. So say your name and who you brought with you.
I'm Jordan Gray, this is my daughter Erica.
And what branch of military?
Navy.
Welcome. All right, we got a lot of Navy people. Strong Navy presence. You're welcome if you haven't grabbed anything to eat. You're welcome to go do that, or go ahead and have a seat. Whatever. We're gonna go ahead and. Do I have any other announcements I need?
No, that was it.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce Jake to you. Jake has been part of the GallantFew climbing group for how long?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. And Navy veteran, grew up here in this area, and he has a pretty amazing story. And one of the things that we want to do is we want everyone to have the opportunity to tell their story. Because when we asked Jake first if he would tell his story, Jake's like, nobody wants to hear my story. But why? Well, number one, because it's important for you to tell, right? For you, your own processing of the things that you've been through, it's important for you to tell it. And then it's important for other people to hear it. Because his experience in the Navy was as far removed from my experience in the Army as an experience possibly could be. So I want to learn more about what other veterans have experienced because that helps me know better how to communicate, how to engage, and if there's anything that I can do to help. I mean, it's just more information, right? One of the ultimate goals of GallantFew is to connect America to our veterans. And there has been, historically, I'll get on a little bit of a soapbox, but then I'll get off of it. Historically, there's been an attitude within the veteran community that if you didn't serve, I don't want to have anything to do with you. You're not as good as me because you didn't serve. And unless you were drafted, right, like Mylan comes in and talks, it was your choice to go in. So I don't want to hear any of this. I'm better than you because I served, because they made a different choice than you. Your choice enables them to pursue their life that provides us restaurants like this, or great products or whatever else, because they chose a different life, and that's totally fine. When you look at the population of veterans versus non-veterans, it's like 5% veterans, and about 2% now are post 9/11 veterans. So the veteran population is pretty small, which means that 95 out of every 100 Americans out there probably not veterans. That means we as veterans better learn how to get along with them, because we have to work for them, we have to work with them, right? We have to interact with them. So let's get past the big chasm that happens between veterans and non-veterans. And one way to do that is to encourage veterans to tell their story. I am recording this, and we're live on Zoom right now. And when you come up here, Jake, I'm gonna have you stick this thing on your lapel so I get the sound good. And he's like, "Are you recording this? Is this going out public?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And he has the opportunity to talk, or the option to talk or not talk about things that he's experienced. And it's totally up to you. So I don't want you to feel any pressure to say anything knowing that it's being recorded, right? The value of us doing the recording is another veteran may see it and go, I identify with what Jake's been through. Let me try and heal the way that Jake made it. So for what that's worth. Jake Edwards, come on up. Longest introduction in history.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Carl.
Missed. Millions and billions being broadcast live on the moon. And you can just put that on anywhere you want.
All right.
Yeah, you're gonna be trending on YouTube for today.
All right. Thanks for coming, Jordan, because you're going to know what I'm talking about today. That's the only shipmate I know that's going to know what we're talking about. So Jordan actually did the same thing in the Navy. So like Carl said, first of all, good morning. Thank you all for coming out. Like Carl said, Navy veteran, served 2004 to 2009. Was forward deployed in Japan, and we'll get into that. So starting out, the reason I joined the Navy is my uncle, my dad's side, was in the Navy when I was very young. We're pretty close in age, I guess you'd say, and he would come home on leave and have cool hair and sunglasses and, you know, Top Gun and a Jeep. And I was like, man, it's just so cool. And, but I get to spend a lot of time with it because he was deployed quite a bit. And I remember that my dad was telling me one week I was with my mom, my parents were divorced, and he goes, oh, I'm going to go see your uncle. He's going to get Sailor of the Year. And I was like, what is that? And I didn't realize what a big honor it was. But my dad had just got a video camera, one of the first ones, the big ones, and took it and recorded the ceremony for me. So I could finally see the first time inside the Navy and what it was like, besides what I'd seen on TV. And brought back this video of my uncle standing there in his dressed whites on the ship. And I was like, man, just the bells and the whistles and the sounds. And you Navy guys know it's really a mesmerizing experience to see. And I was like, I'm going to do that one day. Not be Sailor of the Year, but I want to be in that uniform. I want to travel the world. I want to be on the beach. I want to be in the ocean. I just want to do hair gel and all that stuff. I want to do that. And so, you know, my uncle, when he got out of the Navy, started training me and getting me prepared for what I was going to experience in the Navy, because I kind of wanted to do something similar to him, more of a combat role in the Navy. And so I went off to the Navy. But before I actually went in ROTC to get that extra rank, and I did Army ROTC, and I picked up a best friend of mine in high school, and ended up living with him and his folks my senior year, because I had a difficult issues with my family living there. So I ended up somehow convincing my best friend to go in the Navy with me on the buddy program. Come on in, Chad. So I ended up having my best friend join the Navy with me on the buddy system, and we had left together to go in the Navy. And we'll talk about him in a little bit. So we'll see.
You had 925.
All right, so I joined the Navy to do aviation ordnance. So that's the guys that put the bombs on the planes. We also work with small arms and anything from torpedoes to 9mm up to 50 cal and everything in between. And this is a picture of us graduating, me and my buddy. And I remember being in this at the training command in Pensacola, Florida, and being an ordnanceman. We have this saying "Ioyos," and it means if you ain't ordnance, you ain't shit. And we would run around the base yelling and screaming out all day long. And it's just, it's a thing in the Navy we still do this day. You know, the ordnance guys were loud and proud. And so I was very proud when I graduated. We're me mugging there, but we had a great time. And then I get orders to Japan. I go to the USS Kitty Hawk. And before I had gotten to the Kitty Hawk, in that training command before, we had a hurricane come through our command. And so we had spent 6 months organizing hurricane relief efforts and being out in town. And I was always volunteering to go out and help out in the community. And because of that, the admiral of my last command sent me this letter, this award that I got, which was actually what gave me my first promotion in the Navy to E4. So the first time I came up for E4 at 19 years old, I became an E4 immediately. And that's pretty cool. Actually, I think it was 18 when I became an E4. Very fast. So here's on the flight deck and working on, I think that was, Zach, what is that? Is that a Hellfire? Pretty sure it is. Yeah, okay. So it's a Hellfire missile. We're doing inspections. I can't remember all the ordnance we worked on. But while I was working in the ordnance part of the weapons department on the USS Kitty Hawk, I mostly worked in the armory, working on small arms from 9mm to the M14, M16, grenades. I mean, everything you think of. And then I finally got that unicorn school. I got to go to 50 cal school and become a crew serve weapons. I was a mountain captain. I was running range operations for security department. And I remember seeing these guys like Jordan coming up, and we were qualifying them on these weapons. And I was like, man, they got cool uniforms. They seem to get to do what they want to do. I want to do that one day. How do I get to do that? And then an opportunity came up for me to actually go volunteer myself to go into security forces, because I had all the weapons qualifications that you would need to be a shoo-in to go temporarily assigned to security. And when I got there, I decided I want to stay permanently. This is a picture of us on WOG Day. And if you Navy guys know what WOG Day is, that's a whole nother sea story. But basically for one day, it's a mutiny on the ship. It's a lot of fun. Hitting golf balls off the flight deck, part of that too. When I'm 84, we were taking pictures because we're being silly. And then I get to security. And when I get to security, I'm an E4, got the collar. I'm excited. I have this rank. And I see, while I'm in security, I know there's a smaller group of guys.
You just said got the collar. What is that?
So on my collar, I have my rank. You see up here? I'm up the guy, the third from the left on the top. And so the guy on the far right was a British Royal Marine Commando, and he was actually our one of our instructors. And he and I actually had similar jobs in the Navy before we both went to security, and kind of brought me in. But I had my rank, and no one else did yet. So I was pretty excited to be this fresh face with rank, but not knowing the job yet. So when I got to security forces, it was basically U.S. Navy law enforcement. And I was a patrolman, and I said, man, what do I need to do to get on that special team with those guys that are doing all this anti-terrorism training stuff and boarding ships? And I was like, I want to do that. And they said, well, you have to go through all of the qualifications of normal security. So patrolling the ship, all the way from that to becoming a watch commander, which was not in my rate, not in my scope of expertise, but I was able to, if there's a will, there's a way, and will my way into that position by working hard and getting qualified. And so I'd maxed out all of the qualifications that I needed. And so when an opportunity had come up to go to the anti-terrorism force protection training team, there was 120 of us that went and tried out. And of those, I was one of 8 that got selected, which is when the actual cool stuff in the Navy started happening. So I get part of our training, we get done. What are we, Jordan? We're like, I don't know, 6 months in training. We're doing CQB drills, close quarters combat. We're doing extractions, all kinds of crazy stuff that's too long to get into detail today, but it's very high speed, a lot of fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And then this is me with my guys on my team. And I would say 6 days a week, we would spend 18 hours a day training. So it was like constantly PTing. We're either walking heel to toe carrying a gun, we're breaching doors, we're boarding ships, I mean, you name it, we're doing it. It was just a nonstop physical activity that I thoroughly enjoyed. It was challenging, it was fun, but man, it was a lot of work. And I didn't realize the scope that these guys that I had now become a part of the team, the level of dedication that they had. But we had the best gear, we had a lot more leeway with our schedules, and it's a great experience. And so this is some of us practice doing a demonstration on the pier of how we board ships, normally being like a rib boat, and we would attach this ladder to the ship, but we were demonstrating to other forces. There's other forces here. I think we had some Israelis here, some Australians here, some of the Japanese, and some of our Coast Guard here that we were cross-training with. And we're doing a demonstration of some of the things that our capabilities, boarding the ship there. This is about every day you'd see us. Jordan knows this. We're PTing, I don't know, 6 hours a day. They're yelling at us with megaphones. I'm still friends with one of my mentors, Chief Frazier. And we're just getting beaten all day physically. It was a great experience. It sounds horrible, but it was so much fun to just PT all day long and working out. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Again, movement with our blue guns training. I mean, every day is what we were doing.
What's with the blue guns?
Because we're actually in the hangar bay training with these. We don't want to have a lot. Like I said, a lot of people don't know what this is on the ship. I didn't even know when I first saw what these guys did, and so a lot of people. It's a safety issue, really, walking around with unsecured weapons. So, and plus the weapons are all kept in the armory too, unless we need a quick response, then we'll pull them out. So this is a quick way to train all day long. And plus we beat the hell out of these weapons. I mean, we're doing push-ups on top of them. We're banging them into things. We're running into each other with them. I mean, it's just the training alone can be quite difficult and dangerous. And so we use the blue weapons. And others, yeah, our braking weapons, and I mean, so we use the blue guns. There's me right there, my buddy Dwayne. Let's see here. Now this is my buddy I was telling you about, Ryan. So Ryan was my best friend. Ryan joined the Navy with me, went to boot camp together. Ryan actually passed away. It's a little bit difficult for me to talk about, but I did lose somebody in the service, my best friend. Ryan chose a different path than Navy. We went different ways. Ryan was special warfare. And I'm still close with Ryan's family. I guess I'm their adopted son now. We stay in quite close contact, but that's still very difficult. It's one of the things I didn't want to get too in detail today, but I did want to touch on because it's very important to me to remember. I feel like I was responsible for Ryan joining the Navy because he didn't really know what he was going to do in high school and knew I was going to the Navy and kind of wanted to come with me. And I was real proud of Ryan. Though Ryan did some really cool stuff for the Navy, but it's difficult to look at, but I want to always remember Ryan. So after the Navy, actually when I was in the Navy doing the SSDF and BBSS, during our training evolutions and stuff, Looking back, I think I had probably 6 TBIs. 3 of them were confirmed traumatic brain injuries where I'd fallen and training off ladder wells. And if you know, like Jordan, you're working ladder wells with the 6-man team or even smaller teams, the ladders on the ship, I don't know about the submarine, I don't have ladders, but the ladders are about this steep and you're trying to move a team up those ladders. And I'd fallen off, man, we had all fallen off and hit our heads. And so I had some brain damage that I wasn't really aware of, but it had caused me significant issues in my military service as well as my civilian transition. So when I got out of the Navy, I got out as an E5. I was honestly drinking a lot and participating in other recreational medications, if you will, and doing a lot of time partying. But I decided, hey, I want to be a musician. I've been playing guitar my whole life, and I want to take this on the road. Got an opportunity to play with one of Zach's favorite bands while I was in the Navy. Zach, you know who these guys are. So I got to play with Whiskey Myers one time. Yeah, it was a good time. But I was doing the whole want to be a rock star, playing, drinking. You know, I wasn't really going anywhere, and I was going there really fast. And then eventually I decided I needed to find a way to make some money. And the only way I could think of was to go to college and use my GI Bill. So I went to college, and I didn't take it seriously. I went to college out here. Wasted a lot of time and a lot of money and resources just trying to stay afloat by basically getting paid to go to school but not taking it seriously. And then I had rekindled my love at the time with my high school sweetheart, and she had just graduated Midwestern State University. And I decided I wanted to go out there, be with her, and go to college out there. And luckily, when I got with her, she was a pretty serious person, and she actually helped me get through my degree, kind of get my life structured, get my stuff together as best I could. And I kind of looked that gift horse in the mouth and kind of told her no thanks. And eventually we did have a child together. I eventually divorced her and tried to set her free of me and my problems and troubles. And I started kind of spiraling out of control. But during that divorce, during that time of my life, I decided that what was the most important thing to me and what did I want to do? Well, it was to be a dad. So I had 50-50 custody of my daughter. And I had spent countless hours in therapy, getting sober, getting physically back in shape like I was in the military, probably better than I was in the military. And just my whole focus was being the best dad that I could be. And whatever that took, I was going to do it. And there was nothing going to stop me. And so this was my new mission at the time. And so my daughter and I started, we started rock climbing together. And this was when she was 5. And this was her first time outside. She'd been climbing in the gyms. And I didn't really know that this time that rock climbing was going to be the thing that changed my life. I just knew that as a thing that I did with my daughter, and I really enjoyed it. But the thing about rock climbing that I noticed personally, that even when I wasn't with my daughter, I would go to the gym by myself. When I get on that wall and I would climb, I couldn't think about anything else. All I could think about was where I'm going to go next and how I'm going to do it. It was the ultimate form of meditation. I had tried running. I was training for an Ironman at the time. I was trying to do all these different things to calm my mind and get this restlessness out of myself. But rock climbing was the thing that did it for me. But I didn't have a community, and I didn't have friends, civilian or veterans. I was just by myself with my daughter, and I was in the dad's group at the school, but I didn't really connect with others very well. So I kind of kept to myself, and my daughter, we spent time rock climbing and being outdoors, and she loved it and I loved it. I just loved being with her outside. But then eventually I'm at the gym one day with my daughter in Grapevine, and I run into Zach. And I didn't know that this would be the time, this would be the person, this would be the event, this would be the day that would forever change the course of my life. They had an event the next weekend. Zach invited me, said, if you're a veteran, he saw my tattoos, and we just knew we were veterans. He walked up to me and said, hey, I see you're a veteran. I said, how do you know? He's like, you got the tattoos. I'm not a dummy. I can tell you are. Come out to our event and come support us and come see what we're about. So the following Saturday I go out, and they were kicking off the Run Ranger Run at the time, which is now the Patriot Challenge. And I was there in the top there. I didn't even have a shirt yet, nothing. I was come over haircut, and there's Carl. And I was like, man, these guys are great. Everyone was just happy and smiling and open. And I felt like, man, I could belong here. I could fit in with these guys and these girls. I can just really get a sense of community. I've been looking for a way to belong to something bigger than me and to have fun without having to feel like I was out of place or misunderstood. And so I started climbing with these guys every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for the past year and a half. So we'd climbing. And then eventually I got on the program with GallantFew. I got a cool shirt. Zach and I started becoming better friends. Our daughters are the same age. We started spending more time together. Zach and I became really close friends. I became better friends with Carl. And I started involving myself, volunteering with the GallantFew with whatever thing I could do, and just giving my time back with the GallantFew. But the rock climbing aspect of it was great because we had not only military there, but we also had civilians that I made friends with. And we had started mixing these groups together, bringing the veterans and civilians into one big group. And so I had mixed my civilian climbing group that I had with the military group. And now we have, I don't know, I'd say 40 people probably now. And I would say probably most of them are actually civilians that support us and come out to events outside of the gym. We've been Top Golf. We've gone bowling together. We've gone paddleboarding together. I mean, we do stuff like every weekend together. And so it's been a great experience. And while I was doing the rock climbing, there's Zach again belaying me. While I was doing this rock climbing, Zach noticed that I had this, he could tell I had brain injuries and he could really identify it. And he goes, I have this other nonprofit that I like to put you in touch with. It's called Defenders of Freedom. And Donna here on the right runs that program, and it's for veterans that need traumatic brain injury therapeutic treatment that is not offered by the VA, or it's experimental, or the VA doesn't really care. Let's be honest. The latter is the truth. They don't really care. But he put me in contact with Donna, and this is what really also changed my life as well. Donna took me into the program and fully funded me for a 2-week program with all these really unique brain treatments that are too long to go into detail today. But not only did the veterans go there, Dallas Cowboys go there. I met Isaiah Steinbach, and I don't know if I have a picture. I don't think I do, but I actually got to go train with Isaiah Steinbach at his personal gym. After this, I started getting in better physical shape. But this brain treatment that was done for the 2 weeks was like $20,000 that I couldn't afford and the VA would not do. Really got me tuned up and really got me set that I could actually move forward with my life. And so I have to give a big credit to Zach and to Donna for getting me hooked up with that. And this is a Christy Innes there. She's another veteran, a combat veteran, a Marine. She was telling her story at one of our events that I'll tell you about another group in a minute. And so it's been a great experience with that. But also I was making art. And when I went through that brain treatment, I started being more inspired and the creativity started flowing more. And I said, I want to be an artist. I just want to try this out. Musician wasn't working, but I was like, I want to make art. I want to do art. And if I could do anything, I don't just do it half-assed. I want to go all in. I want to go the hardest I can go to whatever level I can go. And so I had my first art show. What was this? November 2nd, 2019. And not only did I go all out, I sold out. My first ever art show, I sold out, which was amazing to me. I never realized I had that much, talent. I don't know what the word is. I don't think I do, but yeah, it was a great experience. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I'm gonna be an artist. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rock climb for fun. I'm gonna be an artist. Life's great. And then guess what? COVID happened and everything shut down. My art is still in some of these galleries where I can't even get back to it. So it all came to a halt. I had 3 sold out shows. I only showed 1 here, but I was like, what do I do now? Adapt and overcome, right? As a veteran, as a military, that's what we do. We adapt and we overcome. So I said, what's next? Okay, well, I still want to do this Ironman. And I started looking into the Ironman. I was like, man, that's expensive. I need sponsors. I couldn't find sponsors. But I had all the training and the discipline. I was working out 5 days a week. I was riding my horrible cheap bike, hundreds of miles a week, and commiserating with a call about riding a bike and just how much I enjoyed it. But I just couldn't get the funding together. And I couldn't get the Ironman program going that I wanted. And it was really weighing on me because I really wanted to go challenge myself. I wanted to compete on the world stage. But instead, another nonprofit had found me called The Warriors Keep, a great other veterans nonprofit that actually takes veterans on outdoor excursions and does outdoor therapy by taking veterans on summits, the mountains, all these things. But they had started this program where they wanted to do adventure racing and had found me through, I had volunteered I put my name in the hat to go on one of their expeditions. COVID canceled that expedition. But we stayed in contact and they said, hey, man, we see you work out. We see you do these things. Would you like to be on our team to go compete in America's Toughest Race? It's a qualifier for the world's toughest race. And I was like, well, was it like an Ironman? They go, no, it's like 5 Ironmans. I'm like, sign me up. Yes, I want to do that. That sounds way hard. Okay, awesome. And then I got on the team and then we trained. And then so this was when we first announced the team, we went to Guadalupe Peak. We did the summit. This is my team here. We have the Marine Corps, Army, Navy, and we had an Air Force veteran, but she wasn't able to make it. So then we had Cody's wife, Melissa Cum, who's very fit, join our team. And then we trained for 6 months straight. This was us in Big Bend doing summits. So we were doing expeditions. We were training. This is a cool picture. I thought it was a cool view. We all wear our silkies and we're hitting the summits of all these mountains. We were doing max VO2 training. It was just nonstop training for this race because the level of skill sets you have to have for this race are not only biking, rock climbing, multi-pitch, whitewater rafting, all these different things that we had to get together in a short amount of time to make sure we prepare for this race. And so this is us out on our boats. We have our bikes strapped to the front of the boat. Everything you take on this race, you carry with you through the whole race. So whatever you see is what we're taking. So it was a pretty unique experience. And I'm just going through because when we was constantly training and carrying our stuff and just months. And then another cool thing happened is that part of the race, there was going to be a multi-pitch climbing event, and me being the climber and having a connection with GallantFew, Bryce here on the far left works for Carl in the GallantFew, and I met him at one of our events at the gym. And he lives in North Carolina, and I reached out to him and said, hey, can I bring my team out there? Because Bryce knows the ins and outs of the events we're going to be doing, the climbing, and we need somebody to guide us, but not officially, but just to show us the ropes and get us squared away on these more advanced disciplines that we need to learn about rock climbing. And so we went out with Bryce for about 4 days in North Carolina. It was a great experience, beautiful out there. Bryce, Carl, like I told Carl, he knows how to pick talent when he hires people. Bryce was more than influential in inspiring me and training us in this. And so as you can see here, he's like the Sermon on the Mount. He's up there teaching us some fundamentals, some of the functional emotional fitness that Carl and the GallantFew offer. And this is us doing a trad climb. So most people don't know about rock climbing, but if you know the free solo guy, you've seen that, where he climbs with no gear at all. Right below that is trad climbing, where you're clipping your own gear into the rock and hoping it doesn't come out. Nothing is built in, so you have to find a certain way to stick this gear in there, protection, and clip your rope on and keep going. And that's what we're doing here. And Bryce got us up to speed on that, and it was a lot of fun, sketchy, but fun. And so that's another example of the trad. He's carrying his gear up, but and then finally the race happened. So this is this past May. This is in the hotel, taking my last picture because there's no GPS allowed, there's no phones allowed. All you have is a map and a compass. I was not the navigator. That's a lot of responsibility. Our navigator, Mark, was a fantastic navigator. They spent months training just the navigators through there. And I was really impressed with his ability to put this team together, not only as a team leader and the navigator, but just a lot on his plate. So I was really glad he did that because I'm not a navigator, at least not yet, by any means. But we take off on this race, and this is the start of the race. So we're running to the start line here. We're about to get in the water. The river goes right underneath this bridge. We have some supporters out with us that came out to support us. They drove all the way from Texas to come support us out there. So let me get this mouse to work here. Let's see here. How do I go to the next slide? So we get from the race start, we get on our boats. And this is class 3, class 4 whitewater rapids. The water is all ice and snow melt. I'd say the water is around 40 degrees. I don't know. It's very cold. If you're from Texas, it's freezing cold. We had dry suits on. They were rentals. Mine had a hole in it that I found out shortly after because here you'll see.
Came out of the boat, moved back down, I got a little dirty, I ejected out of the other kids behind me, down my paddle, got me back up, like, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. But still hanging in there and still going strong. That was an experience. I won't forget that.
So that water was freezing cold, and it filled my dry suit up, and that was an hour into the 18 hours we were going to be in this boat paddling. So we paddled 65 miles for the start of this race, the first leg on these boats, and I had the water at about to here, and I would say it was cold. And if I didn't keep moving, it was a miserable cold, but it was a motivator to keep going. And then from that point, we started hitting checkpoints. I can get there. So we finally hit our first checkpoint, which is like we're finally going to get off these boats. We've been in there, our legs are asleep. We're ready to get off these boats onto the bike, the next leg of this race. This race is a total of 300 miles in less than 4 days. So just to give you an idea, 65 miles of it was on this boat. And so we finally roll into the first checkpoint.
Sure, checkpoint 1.
And it's rough.
Here we go.
And at this point, we're going to transition from these boats onto our bikes and start the mountain bike leg of the race. Now, the mountain bike sounds like it might, oh, you're going to be on a bike for 85 miles. It's going to be, a lot easier, right? No, the bike, the reason it's the toughest race is because the bike is there as a hindrance. You're literally, and you'll see in a minute, I'm going to show you this video, but I want to describe, you're taking this bike with all your gear and pack and everything, and you're pushing it up and down for a total of 15,000 foot of elevation with no direction, through woods, through I don't know, up to 30-degree inclines or something. I mean, just literally almost rock climb with this thing. So basically, you're dragging the bike with you. You're not riding it anywhere until the last leg of the race. And it's funny because when we got through this transition off of the bikes, some of the professional teams there, this lady gets off, she goes, I have a $20,000 bike and I've ridden it probably 10 miles of the 85. That's it. We literally push these up all these mountains almost the entire way. So you'll see, this is what we were pushing them through, up this mountain. For about, I don't know, 65 miles, just pushing. It was miserable, but we finally get to another checkpoint here, and you'll see it here in the tree. They're hidden, and you have to navigate to them. And there it is right there, hanging from the tree. Maybe you'll punch your card. You'll see the team come up behind me. This was like 2.5 days in, we've been pushing bikes. It's pretty intense there. Nobody's really talking at that point. Come on down. So then we get to other checkpoints, and now what's cool is the checkpoints, you never know what they're going to be. They're kind of like it's almost like a quiz, like a mystery to figure out and kind of decipher what it is we're looking for. But this one happened to be the trailhead sign has certain numbers on it, and we have to write them down. So we find the other checkpoint.
Checkpoint 5 is the numbers on the phone or the trailhead. Back down.
So it's all up to you. The only way that we do have emergency GPS where we can send a signal, they'll come rescue. But other than that, whatever you have is what you have. You're by yourself. There's no support. You have to find your own water out there. Whatever food you bring, whatever you have is what you have to survive for 4 days. There's nothing out there but you and your team. And so to mark where you're going, but you saw the other checkpoint of the tree, you'll either have a certain stamp you'll get, or you'll write down something so they know you actually hit the checkpoints, because there's no one out there with you to make sure.
Checkpoint 5.
Now, this was cool. We finally get to ride the bikes. We're going downhill. We're doing about 40 miles an hour. And then we come across this stampede of cows. And I just want to share, because it was just some of the stuff you get to see doing these races, you don't get to do anywhere else in the world. So, by the way, this is in Oregon, by the way. I mean, we're just dodging cows out here. Yeah, it was pretty neat. Let's see here. And then after all that pushing the bikes, racing the cows, this is what our bikes sounded like. I mean, our bikes were just beaten. And they're just dragging. Our bikes are busted. And I mean, it was just nonstop.
Where is this?
This is in Oregon. Yeah, so this is, I can't.
East of Denver.
Yeah. It takes place, so it's an expedition where you're starting at a certain point where they drop you off. You're navigating 300 miles kind of through Oregon back to Prineville. So to give you an idea, it's close to Prineville, Oregon, and we have to navigate the whole way 300 miles to get there. I'm kind of glazing over because there's so much to cover in just every little bit of these sections here. And then we eventually we do get lost, and I think every team gets lost. But the view, even when you're lost, the view out here.
Monster.
We just pushed up another mountain with those bikes. What's that? What isn't that? Yeah, no shade chip while I'm out there. But we ended up not finishing the race. We got timed out. And so if you don't get to a certain checkpoint by a certain amount of time, they'll pull you out of the race because nobody can finish on time. We did a little over 150 miles, about halfway of the race. It was a great experience, though. I have to say, of all the things I've done in my life, this is one of the hardest things I've done in my life. And there's the reason they call it America's toughest race. It is harder than anything I've done physically, I think, in my life, including the military. But it was a great experience. I got to push myself. We all got to push ourselves. I think to what I would say is the ultimate level of endurance. And I look back on that with really fond memories. So that was a really good experience, and I'm glad to touch on that. But that was the Ironman that I wanted. I wanted that big challenge. I wanted to compete on the world stage, and I met all other teams from other countries, and it was just a great experience that I hope to maybe one day do again. We'll see. But what I want to talk about mostly is what I'm doing now and what I want to do in the future. So when I was with that organization, we had started these climbing programs, and we had huge turnouts. And the GallantFew guys will come out and support us too. Some of you guys are actually in these pictures as well. We started rock climbing programs for veterans because I wanted to share with veterans what I told you about earlier about being up on that wall, being at peace with myself, and finding community with not only other veterans that were rock climbing, but other civilians that had a shared interest, but also diverse in their hobbies, that we could all experiment with other hobbies and other things. But we could get together and rock climb and build a community together. And when we're up on the wall, we can encourage each other, and we could also meditate on our thoughts, or not even have any thoughts, and free our minds while we're up rock climbing. And so my future plans is to keep working with veterans and sharing that gospel of rock climbing and how it changed my life and building communities. And in the future, also, I just want to kind of go through some of these because this is our GallantFew group here, some of them. There's Chad. Here are Chad, Zach. This is one of our last events. So half of these people here are civilians, and the rest are veterans. So you can see we're starting to mix the two together, which is what's really cool. We're bringing like Carl said, we're bringing the civilian and the veterans together. We're connecting them together and doing these activities together. So we're learning about civilian life with military life, and it's non-judgmental. And we've done so many different things besides rock climbing together with just these few people right here. Like I said, we've gone bowling, we've gone top golf, we have birthday parties together with each other. We go out and have dinner together. I don't know, Chad probably tell, we do so many different things together that it's amazing. But I've also noticed that working with adult veterans, male or female, it just comes to a point where sometimes I'm trying to tell you something. You need to do this thing. I'm looking at some of you guys in this room. I'm trying to do this thing. And some people are like, it's hard. I'm like, I know, I've done it. It's hard. It's hard to get out and challenge yourself and to get going in the right direction with your physical health, your mental health, and your community that you need to be around. And then sometimes it can be wearing on me as well, because I want everyone to be successful. I want them to be happy. I want them to go through some of these experiences that I've had and come out the other side with a positive outlook on life and see that it can be done. But sometimes it becomes burdensome, and it becomes to me to where I start judging myself. Am I doing everything that I can do to help others? Am I really reaching out? Or is this really what I want to be doing? And then I realized that when I climb with my daughter, and I climb with Layla, and I climb with Annabelle over here, my daughter's climbing, I said, man, these kids they're just naturally able to get out there and have fun. And it inspires me to have fun. And then I said, where can I be most useful? Where can I be of the most need? And I've always liked to volunteer and serve, and I've always liked to work with kids. And then I started thinking about it. Well, what families could I stay plugged into the military with and still work with kids? And I realized that Gold Star families, those are families of fallen service members and first responders. These are motherless and childless kids that need mentorship and guidance, but also outdoor experiences. And I started looking into what's available for these kids for rock climbing. And I realized there are programs for kids that are 12 and older for these kids, but there's nothing for 12 and younger. And my daughter, starting at 5, and she's about to be 8 now climbing, I said, man, I'd like to work with kids and get these young kids connected with veterans like us here that want to get out and spend time with these kids and motivate them, show up to their baseball games or whatever, but get them out climbing, get them connected with other kids and other veterans, and really build a community around our future generation of Americans. Because like I said, working with adults at times can be frustrating, and it can be wear on me a lot. But I know with kids, it's like you get what you get with kids. You get what you put into them, you get what, and for me, that's very exciting. And Carl's been helping me work with connecting me with other nonprofits that work with kids and the Gold Star families. And so my future plan is to build programs for these kids 12 and under that we could take out on an outdoor adventure programs, but also apply the functional emotional fitness that Carl and the GallantFew offer to veterans. But it's not only for veterans, it's also applicable to civilians and children and anyone of all ages, and take that coaching experience that I'm trying to get from Carl, become a coach to give that to the children of veterans that might need it more than an adult veteran would need it. I think that the future of our country is our children. And if we invest our time in these communities with children, spending time with these kids and getting them outside and getting them excited about being a part of a community and not so much focused on what happened to their parents in the service, but seeing that they have, there's hope in a future and working through that. So it's kind of hard for me to put into exact words because I'm still kind of putting together what I want to do with that. But that's my future plan, is working with Gold Star families. But in the meantime, right now we have, as you see in the back, we have our Patriot Challenge right now. This is how we raise money for the GallantFew, and it's how we raise money to keep the rock climbing programs that we have in our gyms going right now. And I'd like, to ask everybody, if you haven't heard about it, to take a minute to go to the back and look at this program and talk with any one of us here about this and how you can volunteer or serve or help us raise money. Because I will tell you that of all the things I've done in my life, rock climbing with the GallantFew and being involved in that community has been the most influential thing that's happened in my life, and it's changed my life for the better. And I couldn't be happier than I am today. And I never thought I'd find this kind of selflessness, the ability to serve, the ability to help myself through the guidance and instruction of others, and getting the treatment and therapy and the community and camaraderie and all the things I've been looking for in life, like I had in the military, out here because of these programs. So that is all I have to talk about today. I thank you all for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be around. But thank you all for coming out. Thank you guys. Here you go.
Want to give you a GallantFew coin. There you go. And thanks for being part of the family.
That's right.
Yeah, good talk. I thought, and that wasn't like, hey, good talk. That was like a good talk. There's a couple of notes. I know we're hitting up on the top of the hour, but I wanted to point out a couple of things from his presentation, because early on he said, my buddy that passed away, he felt guilt because he was responsible for his enlisting.
Yeah.
Right? That is super, super common among veterans, because most all of us know somebody that died while serving. And some of us feel responsible for their enlistment. Some of us feel we should have been in their place when it happened. We could have done something different. So it's a universal thing. Right after that, you said I wasn't really going anywhere, and I was going there really fast. Right? So that is, again, another very typical thing of veterans, is you're going someplace, but you don't know where you're going, but you're going like hell to get there. And usually that's heading the wrong direction. Yogi Berra, one of my favorite philosophers. What's he say, Zach? Do you remember? It's a test.
No, I know. You go.
If you don't know where you're going,
Yeah, you don't know where you're going.
you'll end up someplace else.
We'll get into
I apparently haven't said it enough yet, but for like a month there, every day I said that, and they were like, would you quit saying that? But if you don't know where you're going to end up someplace else, right? And that's exactly the problem that a lot of veterans run into. A couple more things let me find real quick. He found purpose by being the best dad, right? So what pulled him out of going someplace really fast that wasn't where he wanted to go? He identified where he wanted to go, and that was to be a best dad. That has a time limit on it, because kids grow up and they're out, right? So that is, yeah, Zach's like, yes. But that's a temporary purpose, because they're going to be out. So you still have to look for something bigger than that. Then he talked about climbing. And he talked about how climbing focuses the mind. It's the ultimate form of meditation for me. And I think the for me part is extremely important, because climbing doesn't work for everybody, right? But you find that thing that works for you, that gives you that peace, that gives you purpose, that gives you focus. And if that works for you long term, then that's what you do, right? Pursue that. Don't go trying to box yourself into something that's not long-term going to work for you. Community, something bigger than me. That is absolutely crucial in terms of somebody transitioning out of the military, because what the number one risk, in my opinion, for veterans to kill themselves is isolation. They feel like they're not loved. They feel like they're not worthy of being loved, and they withdraw from everything. They feel guilt. They feel shame. They don't want to talk about things that they're dealing with, and that puts them into that narrow little box, and they can't see past the tunnel. And then the only way sometimes they see a way out is to leave the earth, and that's not a good solution. So that was incredibly important you said that. And then there's one last thing that I want to talk about. I had a conversation yesterday with a veteran that he's not rated for everything typically that he should be rated for from the VA, because the VA is filled with a bunch of jerks. But then he became a law enforcement officer, and then he had a motorcycle accident. And I'm not sure all of the details about the motorcycle accident, but the end result was he lost one leg and he's blind. And he told me that he was blinded because he bled so much that he lost the sight in his eyes. And it's like completely gone. So, but this guy's got a great attitude. He's trying to be involved in things. We're working on trying to get him more connected, because in order for him to do anything, he has to Uber someplace, and that's expensive. So we gotta address that part. But we were talking about functional emotional fitness that Jake talked about several times. And I said, our philosophy on life, our veteran philosophy on life is, and it can sound kind of crass when you talk to somebody that had an accident, lost their leg, and got blind. I said, yesterday, it doesn't matter. The bad things that happened to you in the past, they don't matter when it comes to your decision that you make in the next minute. But I can go refill my coffee cup, or I can go next door and I can buy whiskey. I can make that choice. It doesn't matter the stuff that's happened in the past. But we get locked into this, no, I have to do that because this other stuff happened. That's making excuses and rationalizing. And so that, I wanted to hit on that, because the things that you talked about from military service, some of the experiences that you've had since then in your own transition, they don't matter. What matters is the choices that you make going forward. And you control those choices if you decide where you want to be and where you want to go, and then you can lay out that path. So much for Carl's sermon for Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You got it? You got it?
Drop a little bit off that.
Zach wants to go someplace, so he's like, can we finish? Because I have plans. Some of us are going to go to the gym and climb after this. Everybody is welcome to join us anytime you want. What else do we have for the good of the group? Zach, do we know who's speaking in August?
We have two potentials. One is Lenny. He's a Korean War Marine. He was, some of y'all have seen him at breakfast. He's got a really cool story. He was infantry in Korea, Marine Corps. And at that time, Korea, from World War II to Vietnam, they were in that trial phase when they didn't have the best communications here. So they still relied on buglers. So when Lenny was an infantry in Marine Corps, he got promoted to sergeant. But he was a billet. His job was also promoted from infantry to infantry Marine. Also, he became a bugler. So he would sound calls whenever they were attacking Korea. Whenever they were to commence the attack, he would sound out on the bugle as well. So, pretty cool story. He wants to speak. I'm kind of saying him for November, for birthday month. But I also have a better lined up too. There'll be more information on later. So we got two potentials for August.
Yeah, but how cool is that, right? So the Korean War is for some of us, it's like way ancient history. But the reality is there are a lot of people that still are walking among us that were alive then that experienced that. And to go from, they had to use bugle calls to give commands to units, to the instant GPS pop up in your glasses, now you know where everybody is in the space of a lifetime like that, that's absolutely incredible. So that should be pretty interesting. You were going to say something else? Before I cut you off, like
It's also my birthday, so I'm going to be good things.
it's your birthday.
Next month.
Oh, next month is your birthday. Man, he's setting that up a whole month early.
I'm just saying. Starting out there. August.
He's half my age, if that counts.
Hey.
Anybody else have anything for the group?
Yes.
Well, thanks for being here, Joe. Thanks for being on the Zoom. And I'll see everybody next month.